The boat hits the shore. He is 2 hours late. The crowd has been waiting since dawn. Lords, samurai, fishermen, children who climb trees to see. Across the narrow strait of Ganryu Island, Sasaki Kojiro stands in the sand. His famous nodachi, unseated. A blade so long men called it the drying pole. His face is fury, pure, cold fury. Musashi steps off the boat. In his hand, not a sword, a wooden oar, crudely carved into a shape during the crossing. He is unhurried. He is unthreatening. He looks, to every eye watching, like a man who arrived at the wrong island. Kojiro lunges. 3 movements. Then silence. Kojiro falls. Musashi bows. He walks back to the boat. The crowd erupts. The most anticipated duel in Japanese history is over in 1 second. But something is wrong with the winner's face. There is no pride, no relief, no satisfaction. Just a man stepping back into a boat, looking out of the water, with eyes that have seen something no victory can answer. What do you do when you have beaten everyone, and it changed nothing? Japan, 1600. For 2 centuries the country has been bleeding. Every lord at war with the other lord. Armies rising and falling like tides. Villages burned, alliances shattered. Sons sent to die for causes that shift with the season. This is not war as exception. This is war as weather. You don't ask why it's raining. You find shelter or you drown. The sword schools of Japan teach one truth. The strong survive. Speed, precision, dominance. Win the duel. Protect the Lord. Die honorably if you must, but never lose. A samurai without victories is not a samurai. He is a warning. The entire culture runs on a single premise. Your value is what you can defeat. Musashi was born into this world. He did not resist it. He mastered it so completely, so early, so absolutely, that he became the most dangerous man alive before he understood what danger actually was. His name was not Musashi, it was Shinmen Takezō, and before the legend, before the duels, before the philosophy, there was only a boy with a father who left and a rage he didn't know what to do with. At 7, his father was gone. At 13, a traveling swordsman arrived at the village and issued a challenge. Takezō was not a trained fighter. He picked up a wooden staff. The swordsman was armed, experienced, and certain of the outcome. He was wrong. The boy who walked away that day had no school, no master, no tradition behind him. What he had was something rawer and harder to name. A refusal to accept that the world got to decide what he was worth. He began to walk Japan, challenge after challenge, victory after victory. 61 duels, 61 opponents. Not one of them walked away the winner. Each fight carving his name deeper into the country's consciousness and carving something else out of him, quietly, like water through stone. Something he wouldn't name for another 40 years. The Japan Musashi walked was a country in transition, and transition is always violence in slow motion. The Tokugawa shogunate was consolidating. Wars were ending. The samurai class, built entirely for battle, suddenly had to justify its existence in peace. Men trained to kill were becoming administrators, teachers, bureaucrats. The sword was becoming a symbol. Musashi fought on the losing side at Sekigahara in 1600. He watched his cause collapse around him. He survived by disappearing into the chaos, wandering back roads, sleeping in forests, taking duels wherever they found him. He had no lord, no school, no fixed home. He called this Mushashugyo, warrior pilgrimage, a life lived entirely in motion, entirely in confrontation. He was building something without realizing it, not a reputation, though that came, not a philosophy, though that would come too. He was building, fight by fight, a self entirely constructed from winning, and the self built entirely on winning is not a self, it is a trap. He was 28 years old on Ganire Island, undefeated, famous. After that morning, he never fought again. Not because the challenges stopped, they didn't. Not because fear arrived, there was no one left to fear. He stopped because something in that boat ride home cracked open a question he had been outrunning for 15 years. If I'm only what I can defeat, who am I when there is no one left to defeat? He began to wander differently, slower. He took students, then released them. He was offered positions at courts, stipends, titles, honor. He refused them all. He made swords and then gave them away. He painted, he carved. He sat alone in forests for days at a time. People thought he was broken. He was becoming whole. The man who had spent 3 decades building a self out of combat was not doing the hardest thing a person can do, dismantling it, brick by brick, victory by victory, learning to exist without the fight confirming that he existed. At 60, facing death, Musashi climbed into the Raigan cave in Kumamoto. He had nothing, no students, no title, no sword worth fighting with, just paper, ink, and the long silence of a life finally understood. In 42 days, he wrote Gorin no Sho, the Book of 5 Rings. The world received it as a manual of strategy. Generals studied it, CEOs read it, business schools assigned it. They were not wrong to, but they were missing the deeper current running beneath every page. This is not a book about how to win. This is a book about how to see clearly, without the fog of desire or fear distorting what is in front of you. How to act without hesitation when the mind wants to freeze. How to find stillness at the center of everything moving. He also wrote Dokodo, the way of walking alone, 21 precepts, not for warriors, for anyone who wants to live without being owned by their own craving. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Accept everything just the way it is. Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. This is not discipline. This is freedom. The only freedom that cannot be taken away because no one gave it to you. The enemy Musashi spent a lifetime defeating was never the man across from him. It was the part of himself that needed the victory to feel real. You do not carry a sword, but you carry something just as sharp and just as capable of defining you against your will. The identity you have built from your achievements. The carrier that became your personality. The relationship that became your proof of worth. The version of yourself assembled brick by brick through every success, every survival, every time the world confirmed that you were enough. This is Musashi's trap, rebuilt for the modern world. The trap has no blades and no arena, but it works the same way. You win, you feel real. You need to win again to feel real again. The victories become a treadmill, and stopping the treadmill feels like dying. Until something stops it for you. Failure, a loss, a diagnosis, a door that simply closes. And suddenly, you are standing in that boat, having just won everything you fought for, watching the shore recede, and realizing the feeling you expected never came. Because it was never in the victory. It was never in the external confirmation. Musashi understood this at 60. Some people understand it at 30. Some never do. Musashi died in 1645, 2 years after finishing Gorin no Sho, alone in the cave, by choice. He did not die a warrior, he died a painter, a sculptor, a writer, a man who had walked entirely through the fire of his own ambition and came out the other side with nothing left to prove. He never won a single duel by being the most aggressive. He won by arriving with nothing to protect. No pride, no identity at stake, just clarity. The enemy he finally defeated, the one that took 60 years and 61 duels to reach, was the part of himself that believed the fight was the point. You are in the same fight right now. Every time you tie your word to an outcome, every time the approval of others feels like oxygen, every time you cannot rest until you have proven something to someone, including yourself. Musashi's lesson is not about discipline. It is not about technique. It is this: the fight you keep losing isn't out there. It never was. The hardest opponent you will ever face has your face.